Well, a very good evening, very late evening call from myself here at the home address. It's the last moments of the 29th of March 23. In about 5 minutes it'll be the 30th of March, eh? And the reason I've opened the camera so late, I mean, I'm always sitting here at this time anyway. Not too late, I have to say, but certainly I generally don't go to bed before midnight. Midnight-ish, let's put it that way. But, well, the reason I don't go to bed early is, well, it's guaranteed that Up and Down will start sending energies and wake me up, so I have to make sure that I'm properly exhausted before I retire for the evening so that she can't disturb me, but she still does. And she tries hard enough. But that's not the reason I've opened the camera. What I was looking at is just the upload that I've edited and put on YouTube for the evening. I'm actually quite happy with it in some respects. I decided to make it monochrome, black and white, because the light conditions were so poor with the rain and the mist and the general darkness of the mountain slopes. I thought, well, it was a kind of, very flat light and a very harsh kind of blue and brown. It wouldn't have been good viewing, so I done well to turn it into something a little bit more magical, if I'm allowed to say that. But having retreated from Al-Marie and pulling into the little space which is not normally available because it is an access, but at that time of night I was confident nobody would be looking to, enter or exit at that point. It's a fine spot to be. But I didn't quite capture all the magic from that little segment to when I was pulled up. What I found, it was coincidental. Of course, it's coincidental, but there is no such thing as coincidence. Remember. But what I found was that when I'd gone to speak about my earliest dream, this recurring dream, when the rain stopped, it was actually quite dramatic how just as my thought came and as I started to talk about what I was going to talk about, the rain immediately stopped. And if you will notice that as soon as I completed what I was talking about, the rain started again. Coincidence. Weather. Yeah. But because I had forgotten, I mean, I don't know how many times I've mentioned it on my channel, Milnan Forum, but for some reason my brain didn't click to pick up the name, and so I had a distraction on that for that millisecond, and therefore I lost a bit of a tail of what I was talking about. So let me just say that from about 3 or 4 years of age, I had always dreamt about this mountain which I had never seen in my life before. But in the dream, at an early age, I'd always been trying to get up this mountain, which had snow covering the top, but I could never get any further than the snow line. And then as I most likely started primary school, or for whatever reason, one day I looked, sort of west-northwest from the hometown of Crieff, up towards Loch Turrets, obviously, and I saw the mountain. The mountain was looking at me, and it had snow on the top, and I thought, that's the mountain in my dream. And I might have been about, 7-year-old at the time, maybe 7 or 8 years old. I can't actually remember the exact dates, but it's certainly a time that I'd noted. You know, when you're very young, it happens in adulthood too. This is part of the process, you see. You have your own dimension of what you're operating in, and what your visual dimensions are, and these start to develop and increase as you get older. But there can be distractions in life. It could be fake friends that you're involved in. It could be alcohol. It could be employment. It could be hobbies. It could be anything, which then restricts your view from your own particular dimension. But as you free yourself from all these distractions, then your view becomes wider in all directions. So when I'm at that early stage of seeing Benhonzi, when I first approached Benhonzi in the first years, teenage years, and then when I finally got up Benhonzi, I mean, standing on Benhonzi was a different situation from the dream. But in that dream that I always had over countless years, just up until a few years ago, just up until probably about 3 years ago, maybe even less, I couldn't get up over the snow. And by this time, my brain had worked out that the mountain was definitely Benhonzi, Benihon. It had the shape and the exact snow lines and stuff. Anyway, so it wasn't until I got onto Mjolnir on that day in March 22 that the penny dropped. That is the mountain from my dream, and I am now above it. Despite Benhonzi being higher, of course, but from the photography view, it's a fantastic angle to see the snow in that light. And you know, if you look at the last night's upload, the 29th of March, for the Be Still and Let Your Heart Speak, well, it kind of sums up things there. But also in the where I positioned my motor car after I left Amalri, the atmosphere was absolutely amazing, truly amazing. There was something very, very, I don't know, very rewarding about that whole time I spent there. I mean that. It was truly quite amazing. I don't know if I was meant to be chatting, and this kind of leads me on to something as well, because when I'm up in the mountains and you know, I tell you different stuff. For example, I mean, tonight when I was talking and the rain stopped and then it started again, that was truly magical. Immensely magical to be actually there at that very point in time. It was just very unique. We've all been in rain. We've all, you know, dashed out to collect our washing, and there's been a moment, interlude from the rain or something like that. But this was entirely different. There was a message there. But I think it was a sermon I remember hearing not so long ago about I'm not entirely. I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm interested in segments of the Bible, and I enjoy listening to little bits of or snippets of information regarding the Bible, or looking at the Bible and trying to understand it, because there's never any proper understanding of biblical texts as I've grown up. There was no one really to ask, because asking anybody, they didn't really understand themselves. And I have to say that that also applies to much of the clergy, because their interpretation of the Bible was exactly what they had been told, or studied at least, and so their adaptation of the Bible was something that they had to learn and basically recite or memorize, so that they could continue, go on to pass their the test for the getting the collar, so to speak. So there was never anyone really with who was influential enough to actually say, well, what does this actually mean, or what's happening here? But this sermon about the three disciples, Peter, James, and John, they were chosen to follow Jesus up. I don't know the name of the mountain actually. It's the mountain of Transfiguration or something it is for Jesus, because he was on the top of the mountain. He completely changed. The whole thing changed. It was near the Sea of Galilee in modern Israel, and my understanding of this little segment was that Peter, James, and John had followed Jesus up this 9,000-foot mountain. And when they got to the top, there was an appearance by Elijah, who was already deceased, and Moses, who was already deceased. And there was under strict instruction that it should not be discussed what they'd seen. Peter was the disciple Peter was quite an intelligent person, but he was under no illusion that instructions he was given, he was not allowed. It was almost like the very first elements of joining the Secret Service, or signing the Official Secrets Act here in the United Kingdom. That you were not allowed to discuss something. And that applies for life, for anyone who has signed the Official Secrets Act. They're not allowed to discuss anything about what they know, or what they've heard, or what they've seen. So my point being that quite often when I'm chatting to you about some personal events and some psychic abilities perhaps, or visualizing the fairies, or even some of the rarer moments that I've actually experienced in life. Even just, for example, what happened in Istanbul airport recently, or in Egypt, at the dining table. I think perhaps that there's also some sort of unwritten Official Secrets Act that I have, that perhaps that I need to keep my mouth shut in regards to what is been given to me, and in a sense like my own gifts, my own understandings of what I experience and see, and I'm able to, well, my intuition, for example, is it's crystal clear. 99.99% on many things. And so I have this feeling that that little sermon was a kind of a wake-up jab for me. It was almost like, was I in the, I'm not saying I was in the shoes of Peter, but what I'm thinking is that drip-fed this type of stuff, and then taking this information and making it publicly known is maybe not. It's maybe not on. It's maybe not how it works. So, if I'm remotely viewing, for example, or if I'm having downloads, I don't think I am meant to discuss these events. And just as Peter on the mountain with James and John witnessed these magnificent happenings, was instructed that he had to keep his mouth shut. And the reason for him keeping his mouth shut was that the people in the valleys down below were not ready for this. They would not comprehend what was happening. And so therefore, I think that, don't get me wrong, I haven't met Moses and Elijah and stuff at the top of any of the mountains I've climbed, for example. But what I'm trying to say is that the little elements that have been given to me, special gifts over the many years, which has unleashed me from the dimension I was talking about earlier. This restriction that we have, where we can't see any further than the circumference that we have imposed upon ourselves, or at least by association with what we do in life. Perhaps we've got fake friends who clamp our brain or keep us restricted or misguide us, or even just don't want us to progress. So I think that from the young age that we are, somehow the education system sweeps in quite early to capture us, to destroy our imagination and our thought processes, to fill it with complete nonsense about things that it doesn't really matter, like algebra or something like that, something totally irrelevant in life, but you've still got to do it. It's to ensure that you're capable of thinking because you are a great scholar at school with algebra. You understand what I'm trying to say? And because it was not working so well, what they tried to do then is bring in earlier and earlier. Well, in my opinion, it's potentially not fact, but then what I'm saying is that why have we got nursery and then we've got pre-nursery for the children? The children need to be with their mothers. They don't need to be muddling around with other children at a very early age. They need to be sitting on their own, thinking. There's enough time for interaction with other children as they progress, through their early developing years. Certainly don't have to be all scrambled together playing with plastic toys in a big plastic den when they're 3-year-old or something, when they should be sitting in the garden perhaps looking at daisies or getting their face mucky with the ground in the earth. I hope you understand what I'm talking about.